You've probably heard it a million times. Be careful online, use strong passwords, don't click on suspicious emails. But what are we actually protecting ourselves from? It turns out the biggest cyber threats aren't some crazy thing you'd see in a movie. Nope, they're way more common and they all start in a place that might really surprise you. So let's break it down.
Okay, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at where these attacks actually begin. And trust me, it's closer to home than you think. Then, we're diving into the two main ways attackers get in, through deception and by finding weak spots. And finally, we'll see how it all comes back to the one thing that connects every single threat, the human factor.
All right, first up, this idea that attacks start with us. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, the answer probably isn't what you're guessing. So this is really the big question, right? We all have this image of a cyber attack, some hacker in a hoodie sitting in a dark room just furiously typing to smash through a firewall. But what if the reality is a lot less dramatic? What if it all starts with something we do every single day without even thinking about it? And there it is. That's the big secret. The front door for most cyber threats isn't some super complex digital backdoor. It's a simple, everyday human action. It's that one little click on a weird link. It's using that same password you've had for the last 10 years. Or it's replying to an email that just seemed really urgent in the moment. So if these attacks start with us, how exactly do they work? Well, the first major category is all about deception. These are the threats that are specifically designed to trick us, to basically open the front door and invite the attacker right inside. First up is a word you've definitely heard: malware. It's kind of this big umbrella term for any software that was built to do bad things. Think of it like a digital weapon. It can be used to spy on you, steal your stuff, or even lock you completely out of your own computer. And malware isn't just one thing, it comes in a few different flavors. You've got viruses, which are like these digital parasites that latch onto your files. Worms are more like a disease. They can spread all by themselves across networks. Trojans are the masters of disguise. They pretend to be something useful to trick you. And then you have ransomware, which is basically digital kidnapping for your file. All right, next up is phishing. And this one is one of the most successful attacks out there simply because it plays on our own psychology. The attackers send a message pretending to be your bank or Amazon or maybe even your boss. They create this sense of panic or urgency to make you act before you have a chance to think. And that's the absolute heart of it. Phishing isn't really a technology hack. It's a trust hack. The attacker is just betting that in a split second, you're going to trust that familiar logo or that urgent subject line more than your own gut feeling that something's a little off. Now, phishing is actually just one type of a much bigger category called social engineering. And this is really the art of manipulation. Instead of trying to break through a digital wall, the attacker just tries to convince somebody on the inside to hand over the keys. Let's think about it this way. Traditional hacking is all about manipulating technology. Social engineering, that's about manipulating people. It's the difference between kicking down a locked door and just convincing someone to open it for you. It's why an attacker might call you, pretending to be from IT support, asking for your password to fix a problem. See, they're not breaking in, you're letting them in. Okay, so what if trying to trick you just doesn't work? Well, that brings us to our next category: threats of access. This is where the attackers stop trying to persuade you and they start looking for a weak spot so they can force their way in. And what's the most common weak point? You guessed it, our passwords. Attackers use automated tools like brute force attacks, where a program just sits there and tries thousands of different password combinations every single second until something works. And this is exactly why reusing passwords is so incredibly dangerous. Attackers get their hands on these huge lists of usernames and passwords that were leaked from one company's data breach, and they just try them on every other website they can think of. It's called credential stuffing, and if you use the same password everywhere, one leak can basically unlock your entire digital life. But it's not just about your password. Sometimes the weak point is the connection itself. Like when you're using the public Wi-Fi at a coffee shop. An attacker on that same network can digitally place themselves right between you and the internet. It's called a man-in-the-middle attack. It's like a postman opening your mail, reading it, and then sealing it back up before it gets to you. You'd never even know it happened. So what happens when the attacker is already inside the building? Well, that's called an insider threat. See, not all attacks come from some shadowy hacker halfway across the world. Sometimes, the biggest risk comes from people who already have the keys to the kingdom.
And these threats can be totally intentional. You know, like a disgruntled employee who decides to steal company secrets on their way out. Or they can be completely accidental. Think about a well-meaning employee who just happens to click on a phishing link and unknowingly lets an attacker right into the whole network. Either way, the damage can be huge.
So we've looked at how attackers deceive us and how they hunt for weak points to get access, but all of this, it all leads back to one final, absolutely critical piece of the puzzle that connects everything we've talked about, the human factor. This really is the key to it all. I mean, think about it. If you look back at everything, malware, phishing attacks, weak passwords, even those insider threats, what is the one single thing that they all have in common? It's us. Most cyber attacks don't succeed because of some brilliant genius-level hacking. They succeed because of predictable human behavior. They prey on our trust, our habit of taking shortcuts with passwords, and, honestly, just our simple lack of awareness in a busy moment. Which leaves us with a really fascinating final thought, doesn't it? If we are the main target in almost every single one of these attacks, if our own psychology is the weak point they're trying to exploit, then couldn't our own awareness also be our single greatest defense? And that is the question we're going to tackle next time.